Everything starts with leadership. The craft of leading people, bringing them together behind a common vision and creating an environment that allows every individual who is part of the team to feel connected to that vision, to draw purpose out of what they do. That's what great leaders innately do. And I learned so much about leadership, and everywhere I look in the business world, I see good and bad examples of leaders that leave so much potential on the table because they're not paying attention to the most important aspect of their job, and that's bringing people together to accomplish something that they don't believe that they could accomplish on their own. That's what great leaders do, and they spend a disproportionate amount of their time not looking at spreadsheets, not sitting in the corner office, but being out together with people, leading people. I'm a student of leadership. I've been studying leadership since I went to West Point, the premier leadership school in the country, maybe the world. And the first thing about leaders is you got to understand yourself, and you have to first learn how to follow before you can ultimately lead. And that's why the system at West Point starts you at the bottom, and you're a member of a small team, a squad, and you're on the receiving end of leadership. And until you walk in those shoes, you'll never be able to then turn the page and be able to lead others. One of the posters I saw when I first went to West Point, or was first considering West Point, was this recruiting poster, but it had Patton and it had MacArthur and it had Eisenhower with the headline that said, "Much of the history we teach was made by the people we taught." And that connected with me, and to think that I got to share an experience with the greatest leaders of our country and essentially go through the same leadership model to walk in those shoes. So I feel like I've been part of something much, much bigger than myself from that first day at West Point. The leader is expected to be at the decisive moment with his soldiers where it matters most. He's not sitting back in the rear, he's right there. We lead from the front. And when you translate that into the civilian world, that's management by walking around. That's getting out, it's getting to understand the individual problems that are around the organization. And if you understand them, you can then begin to remove obstacles where you need to as a leader, provide extra resources and encouragement when you need to as a leader. And that only happens when you're out moving around, working together with your people. I met Joe, even though we have a very similar background. We both came from New Jersey. We were both big wrestlers. I wrestled in college, Joe wrestled in college. Yet our paths had never crossed until really I was the chief marketing officer at Mercedes-Benz, and Joe was on the dealer council. And Joe is really smart, and he's really articulate. And quickly in those interactions while I was the CMO, I realized, wow, this guy is committed, he shows up prepared, and always has something meaningful to say. So oftentimes you get a dealer council together, some might be prepared, some maybe less so, but Joe was always the workhorse inside of the group and the driver inside of the group. And even though he was the youngest guy in the room, these are dealers that have in many cases been around much, much longer than Joe and had in many cases more dealerships than Joe. And I kept looking at that guy saying, wow, smart, hardworking, really focused. So he jumped really off the page for me in those early interactions. And then I got the CEO job. And as we were expanding our network, you know, Joe was delivering such excellence. And I said, you know, if we're going to expand our network, I'm not going to do it with the old guard. And just because you've got 5 dealerships and you're doing an okay job taking care of customers, that you automatically have a birthright to get the next open point. Joe stood out, head and shoulders stood out above his peers. And I said, if I'm going to add a point, it's going to the best and to the brightest and to the hardest working and to the one that focuses on the details and cares about the customer, and that was Joe repeatedly. So what started as 2 Jersey boys coming from distinct but common backgrounds, we intersected at Mercedes-Benz, and when I had the opportunity, I was so impressed by what he brought to the table that his dealerships grew, his exposure to our business grew, and he became, for me, a guy that I always had on my speed dial. So anytime that I, as the CEO, needed a point of view, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? Joe has always been my sparring partner, and that's how we became close, because I valued his point of view. I valued who he was in any given situation, that I repeatedly turned to him as an advisor to give me the dealership point of view, the retail point of view in an area where I didn't have quite that background. So I really respected his thought process, his thoughtfulness, and that's how our friendship grew. What I love about the Dream Motor Group and what I love about Joe Agresti is he intimately understands that it all starts with leadership and with culture. And it always starts with the top. There are so many organizations that go through the flavor of the month initiatives where they want to do something, whether that's customer experience or they want to deliver the dream. Ultimately, if you don't create an environment that starts from the top and permeates the everyday culture of an organization, it will be nothing more than flavors of the month. And we've all seen them come and go hundreds, if not thousands of times. So Joe is committed. He is one of the best leaders that I've ever worked with. That's why I like him so much. That's why his Dream Motor Group expanded under my watch, because he was delivering the best experience operationally with his people, with his culture, with his leadership than his peer set among Mercedes-Benz dealers. So Joe understands culture. He understands leadership. It always starts with him. And where I've seen him excel is how he drives that into every little nook and cranny of an organization. And that's the difficult part, right? It's easy to align as a small leadership group, but suddenly when you got 140 people showing up every single day, you can't manage that from the tower. You can't have a command and control environment. What you have to do is invest in leadership. You have to say, here's the value system that drives our company and our culture, and then ultimately get out of people's way and let them do great work. And that's what Joe knows and understands, and that's why Dream Motor Group is best of the best every single year. He's one of the only, if not the only, dealer that has every single one of his stores that qualified for what was Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best elite group of dealerships. So he's a terrific guy, and he's delivered a terrific experience. One of our core values inside of this company is listening and responding. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room as a leader. My job is to listen to people that are on the front lines and what are their issues and what are their problems. And by listening and then responding by providing resources or help or advice along the way. So listen and respond, and that's something that Joe is more committed to than anyone I've ever seen. So inside of all of his dealerships, he has these sessions. He calls it speed dating. I call it listening and responding, where he meets on a periodic basis with every single person inside of the store, every single person of every job description, of every level of hierarchy, and he gets those viewpoints. And all of those viewpoints he assimilates in order to make better decisions. And the only way that he would be able to do that is by sitting down with them. Not many leaders take the time and have the discipline to go through those regular listen and responding sessions. And honestly, that's what makes him smarter than so many other people, because he's listened to the people on such a frequent basis, and he's accumulated and gathered that knowledge, and it makes him really, really effective. I believe there's an obligation for me personally and for every brand or company that I've worked for, that it's not just about profit and loss. Sure, that's one measuring stick, but ultimately it's how have you impacted the community that you live in, your backyard, your community, the country, the world that you live in. And every great organization, great brand that I've worked for, intimately understands that giving back is part of that. It's one of the core values, giving back, of the company that I now work for with Arthur Blank and the AMB Group. Great organizations understand that if I can create an environment where people derive purpose from showing up every day at work, and giving back is what creates, in many cases, that purpose, then you will have created something that is magical in the work environment. You will get so much more, and you will have so much greater of an impact. And it starts with something as simple as giving back. Dream Motor Group is just a name. It exists inside of the communities that it serves. And if the people that are part of that community feel that Dream Motor Group and the dealerships that comprise the Dream Motor Group care about that community and authentically care, right? Anybody can check the box and write a check and sort of mail it in, and many do. But the best organizations and the best dealerships truly become embedded into the fabric of the communities that they serve. They are there at all the important moments, and they become such an integral part of the community that they create an environment where they are beloved in their community and serve their community, and that has got a good business outcome. Ultimately, good dealerships care about their community, give back to their community, and Joe is really at the heart of that, and he does that every single day. And what's impressive about it is, Joe's one guy. Joe can't be in 5 different communities at the same time, yet he's created a commitment through his leadership team that is replicated across all of those communities. And even though Joe is not there, that giving back and that focus on the community is taking place all the time. A small group of West Point classmates from the class of 1986 and I got together in 2010. John McHugh, who was the captain of our soccer team, very good friend, full colonel, served his country for his entire life, his entire career, was killed in Afghanistan by a suicide bomber. And a small group of us were obviously devastated by losing a friend and a colleague like that. We banded together with the initial intent of just taking care of John's family. He left behind a wife and 5 beautiful children. So we started fundraising, we started doing golf tournaments to make sure that we would take care of John's children, and we accomplished that. And that was wonderful, and we celebrated that accomplishment. But then we said, we've been at war continuously since 9/11. That's 17 years where we've been putting our soldiers in harm's way, and thousands have gone out to serve their country, and they haven't come back, just like John, thousands. And they're leaving behind in their wake families and friends and loved ones. So to continue to honor John, we formed the Johnny Mac Soldiers Fund, and the purpose of the Johnny Mac Soldiers Fund is to take care of those that are left behind. So our mission is to provide college scholarships to children of the fallen, and we've been doing that for the last several years. That's our way to honor where we came from, West Point. It's our way to give back, and it's our way to take care of our military in a time where they need everything they can get from us, because we're asking an awful lot of them. So that's what we do at the Johnny Mac Soldiers Fund. Joe Agresti is on our board. He's been part of that mission practically from day one, and even though he's not a member of the class of 86, we made him an honorary member of the class of 86 because the level of value and commitment that he has given to our board has been unbelievable, and he has really helped us move the needle. So owe a lot to Joe for his participation and commitment to Johnny Mac and being an honorary member of West Point's class of 1986. So it might seem like an odd transition moving from the car world into sports and entertainment, and that's the business that I'm in as the CEO of the AMB Group. But if you think about it, we're in the exact same business. We're in the business of taking care of people. So whether that's taking care of people in a dealership and creating an environment that allows customer experience excellence to happen every single day, this stadium, which holds 75,000 people, and we've got 4,000 game day associates, from ticket takers to guest relations to our food and beverage providers to our security people. They are our instruments of fan experience inside of our building. So imagine the difficulty inside of a dealership of aligning everybody behind that, and now take that to the next level inside of a stadium of 75,000 people, where 4,000 people are in charge of thousands and thousands of moments of truth. I call those moments of truth, where one of our associates can either lean into a moment and make someone's day, either by smiling at them, greeting them, going out of their way to escort them, or they can look down and turn the other way. Those moments of truth happen every single day. So if you create an environment that aligns these 4,000 game day associates behind a common vision to be the best sports and entertainment venue in the world, and our motto here is we are a stadium that aspires to be a Ritz-Carlton. We want to deliver a differentiated, caring, individualized experience inside of this stadium that that honestly is playing a different game than any other sports venue across America. So it's honestly been a wonderful transition, and the focus around creating culture and leadership that's laser focused on delivering customer experience was the perfect prerequisite to taking this to the next level in an environment like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. For me, it's no different than with the Dream Motor Group. The way I say it to my associates, we are not in the football business, we are not in the soccer business, we are in the fan experience business, we are in the people business, and it's no different from Dream Motor Group. Sure, they sell cars, but they do that with people, and they create an amazing experience that if they don't differentiate from every other dealership experience, then they're not working hard enough. A product like Mercedes-Benz, a luxury product, if that is delivered and surrounded by a higher level of customer experience, then honestly you're not living up to the expectation of the brand. So what Joe does and what the Dream Motor Group does is it spends so much of its energy, effort, and investment in people, aligning them around a core vision, giving them great leadership, and then getting out of the way and allowing the magic to happen. So for me, it's the exact same thing. There is no difference between what Joe does every single day across the Dream Motor Group that I do here inside of a stadium, trying to surprise and delight our fans every single day. And it's the little things that matter the most. And our competition, if you think about it, is not Brave Stadium or where the Hawks play. Our competition is the living room. Today everybody's got 80-inch flat screen TVs. They've got their kitchen and refrigerator right there. So unless we create an environment that is so singularly focused on our fan, they might as well stay home. So that's what this building is all about. So while I call this the best sports and entertainment venue in the world, I could take you around on a tour and point to hundreds of examples where we said this is about the fan, and we're going to make that extra investment. You can understand that during the design and construction and the development of this building, the fan sat right at the center of the table and informed every one of the decisions around it. Those are the little things that have such a big impact, and Joe is that kind of detail guy. What are those little moments of truth that differentiate the Dream Motor Group experience from all the other automotive experiences that happen across this country every single day? Porsche is a storied brand, and it's got the combination of history, it's got engineering, it's got design excellence, it's got a level of timelessness that a Porsche from the 1950s and the 1960s is as revered today or more than even the current product, and that is unique. So as a brand, it brings together ingredients that other brands just don't have. That connection to a past, but that commitment to excellence, both technologically and from a performance standpoint. So what Porsche has is it appeals to the head and to the heart. And great brands do both, but they disproportionately connect here. Great brands like Apple is a pure emotional experience. It's an emotional relationship with your fans and with your consumers. And I believe Porsche stands on that same pedestal along with the best brands in the world in terms of hitting the head and the heart, steeped in history, yet committed to excellence. And it's something that makes Porsche, as a brand, one of the strongest automotive brands in the world, and a connection to customers that is truly unique. I've been amazed to see how successful Porsche has been in adding to their model lineup while not diluting their brand. That is always the challenge. The center point for the Porsche brand has always been the 911, yet they've managed to move out into sport utilities, into compact and larger size sport utilities, in areas where you could dilute the brand, and yet they haven't. So they've done an exceptional job of that. The benchmark for us when I was at Mercedes-Benz, as we added AMG products and the GT and the GTS, was always the 911. That is the core of their, they are so dominant. The it, we found at Mercedes it was almost impossible to conquest a 911 customer because they were so committed to that product and to that brand that you had almost no shot of getting somebody out of a 911 and into any other product. That was truly, truly impressive for us. They were a really tough challenger, and so for me it really is the 911. But I've gotten the chance to drive so many of their products, and whether it's the Macan, you walk out of that and you say, I get it. This is a Porsche experience, a Porsche driving experience. So the DNA of the 911 has been successfully transplanted and propagated across their entire model lineup. What I can bring to the table has been really a deep, deep commitment from all of my experience that it all starts with culture. If you want to get any outcome, my strong belief is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I would rather have a high-performing culture than the best McKinsey strategy in the world, knowing that ultimately the people, if they don't believe, if they don't buy in, you're not going to ultimately achieve what you want to achieve. So from day one, when I took over as CEO for Mercedes-Benz in North America, my commitment was to a vision of creating the best customer experience in the world, knowing that the only way to get there is to create a culture and an environment that celebrated that lived that every single day, and that tried to drive that into every corner of the organization, starting at our headquarters, all the way out through our parts distribution centers and our vehicle preparation centers, all the way out to the 400 plus dealerships across the United States and the more than 30,000 people that touched our customers every single day. Now, trying to align an organization like that is really, really difficult. So if you don't have a level of commitment from your leadership to driving that and living that every single day, it will be nothing more than a mission statement or a poster that hangs on a wall. That's number one. And number two, if you don't create an environment, a culture that cares about, first and foremost, its associates. If you don't create a caring, great culture inside of your own building, how do you expect those people that show up every day to pay that forward and deliver that to the end customer? So it really does start with, it starts with leadership, it starts with culture, everything else follows from that. And as long as you keep the customer in the center of your conversation, you'll be okay. Joe is one of the few dealers that I know who's delivered best of the best. That's our most elite category when I was with Mercedes-Benz, that differentiated the best dealers in sales, in parts sales, in used car sales, in F&I, in their relationship with the manufacturer, in taking care of the customer. So we have a lot of metrics that ladder up to how we evaluate our retailers across the country, and Joe was in the top percentile, not just of one store, not just of two stores, but of every single store. So there's not many dealership groups that have the ability to deliver excellence in a uniform way across an increasing portfolio of retail establishments. Joe's approach from an operations, culture, and leadership, those three things together have created an environment that allows that excellence to be delivered across all of his stores in much the same way that Coach Saban delivers excellence every single year, and then he graduates a class and everybody says, can they do it again? But he brings in a new crew and immerses them in the value set and the system and the process that is Alabama football, and it delivers excellence every single time. That's what Joe does, and operationally, best of the best is hard to get to, but to do it with every store, every year, that is something that is truly unique.